welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, the Mahua Moitra saga continues. She has been summoned by the Ethics Committee, and it was a very dramatic meeting from all accounts. She walked out of the meeting alleging that a lot of filthy questions were asked, questions about her personal life, questions which had nothing to do with the case. She claims that she was questioned as to, who she speaks on the phone at night, when she goes to a hotel, who she stays with, who picks up the bill, etc., etc. A lot of opposition MPs, who are part of the Ethics Committee, have also come out in her support and said that all this is just to embarrass and to shame the MP and nothing to do with the case. It's all to do with her raising questions against a certain businessman. On the other side, the government and the BJP MPs are claiming that this is all part of legal procedure, and the fact is that all they were trying to do is to prove that there was a quid pro quo between the questions that were asked from her login by Darshan Hiranandani and the kind of the gifts and bribes or whatever she got in return. They wanted to prove the link between the two, hence this nature of personal questions. Clearly, the lines between the personal and the professional have been blurred in this case. Is this to do with Mahua herself or the nature of the case, or of course, the kind of people she's taken on, whatever we would say, a panga with? That is something we're going to be discussing on the show today. Joining me is Abhijit Iyer Mitra, someone who's been closely following the case. If you follow his Twitter timeline, you'll get to know a lot of tweets. He's a political and social commentator. We have Vrinda Gopinath, a freelance journalist, columnist, and someone who writes for The Wire. There is Rashid Kidwai. He's an author, political journalist, commentator, and senior columnist. Abhijit, since you seem to be pretty well informed as to what is happening, so I'm going to begin with you first. What happened in the committee meeting today? What is it that you have heard? We've seen, of course, Mahua coming out. We've seen other opposition MPs also backing her case. So what was the line of questioning that was followed in the ethics committee? What have you heard?
Right. So there was the pre-lunch session, Priya, and then there was the post-lunch session. The pre-lunch session was approximately 2.5 hours, which was entirely Mahua's show, because they wanted to give her unrestricted access without questioning anything to present her case. She brought her laptop along. She showed a lot of images and things like that. And she focused entirely on the personal. If you remember those images that were doing the round of cigar smoking or whatever, she was showing the complete image and this and that. And it apparently there was a long, extended 35-minute tirade against Jai Anant Tehadrai, the jilted lover, etc., etc. Now, what happens is this entire 2.5 hours, there was very little questioning. And at one point, and she was screaming at Sonkar. So at one point of time, apparently one of the opposition MPs said, maintain some decorum because you can't scream. Apparently her thing was, that is my voice. It ends up getting a bit screechy at times. I'm not screaming at him or whatever.
And Sonkar is the chairman of the ethics committee, who is also
exactly. And it was an opposition MP that pointed out that it was disrespectful to be screaming. At which point she explained ki, mera voice modulation theek nahi hai, upar jata hai, niche jata hai. Apparently that was the explanation given. She loves being cute. So what ends up happening is the real tamasha starts the post-lunch session. Because they have got, I don't know who in the committee, I suspect Sonkar, has been given the NIC investigation report. And they were trying to pin her down, essentially without showing her the evidence. They wanted her to perjure herself. So they asked her questions. Now, apparently, so first of all, remember, she had asked for a date after the 4th of November. They said, no, we're not giving you a date after 4th of November. You have to come on the 2nd of November. This all happened because of the interview she gave Rajdeep Sardesai, where she was sitting in her porter cabin office outside that 9B telegraph lane. And when they looked at it, they were like, you said you are in Karimnagar. You're clearly not. So you're damn well coming here on the 2nd, number one. It is also in that interview that she's gone and said, you can't access it as it is. You have to access it either through phone or laptop. She said phone. Now, what my parliamentary sources tell me is this phone OTP started only after March. Prior to March, it used to come on a separate thing on your computer, which means you anyway had to have some kind of computer access in order to be able to getting that OTP sent to you on your computer, right? So it wasn't entirely accurate what she said on that program. Now, what has happened out there is they wanted to pin down several late night calls where they believe OTPs had been shared because they were short duration calls. And that is why they asked her, ye raat ko ye kya conversation tha? Now, they just said at 11:15 p.m. you had this conversation. Can you please tell us who it was to and what was discussed? Very anodyne question. She's decided to make it about questioning her character. How can you question a woman who she's talking to at night? As if women have conversations at night that are different during daytime. But anyway, that has been her line of defense. There were some very, very unparliamentary words used towards Sonkar, which I'm not going to repeat in public. And
used by Mahua.
Used by Mahua. It was a coordinated kind of a walkout that then happened. And the rest of it you saw because that happened outside chambers. Now, the problem is by briefing the press on what happened inside the room, going into specifics as they did, they have violated 275, rule number 275 of the Lok Sabha rules. Right. And do you want me to send you the rules when the screenshots? I can just hold it up though. This is rule number 275. It is sorry, let me just get this. Right. So if you see rule number 275 here.
That's no part. Yeah, it says no part of the evidence. Yeah.
Yeah, no part of the evidence may be shared in committee till the report is tabled before the speaker. As a speaker that decides to make it public or private. So they have all violated rule 275. But I guess when this conversation progresses, I'll show you why they wanted to get her on perjury as well. I think the traps are entirely going to be to get her to perjure herself. Because there are several criminal cases, not just an ethical breach. It turns out they're looking at criminal cases to prosecute against her as well, just based on sharing the password.
Wow. So I'm going to come back to you on that one because that seems as if the case against her is just tightening. But just before we go into the details of it, Vrinda, what do you make of the whole case against Mahua? You know, this sharing of the OTP or rather sharing of your parliamentary questions login. She's claiming that, of course, no rules were framed, so have I really done such a breach of this thing? Then she asked for an extension from the ethics committee from appearing. She was not allowed that. Abhijit has just shared it. That's why she was not allowed that privilege. But she's cited the example of Ramesh Bidhuri, who used a slur against another Muslim MLA in the House or MP, and he was given an extension. So there seems to be, is there a partisan notion at play over here? Is she being targeted first of all?
Well, Priya, the thing is that, first of all, the way the whole thing unfolded was also so inappropriate where she was concerned. All those pictures coming of her smoking a cigar, then wearing a dress. It all began in this kind of salacious kind of, manner where it was designed to kind of create this, this scarlet woman who's kind of, now kind of getting all these gifts from these various men. It was just so hideous, the whole thing. And it continues because if she says what she said that happened even today at the ethics committee, that they were asking all these inappropriate questions. Where were you in the night? What were you doing? How often did you go to Dubai? So she said it was literally like disrobing, using the Hindutva kind of nationalist kind of, phrase. But the thing is, I was reading what PTT Achari, who is the former Lok Sabha, Secretary General, who kind of made it quite clear on the technical part of it. So to read him, he says that number one is that it should not have gone to the ethics committee, but actually to the privileges committee. Because if it is a thing of cash for votes, which is what the real, accusation
cash for questions.
Cash for questions. One, he said it should not have gone to an ethics because it's not about ethics. Because he says ethics are where, one MP was pulled up because he took, a companion rather than in the name of his wife abroad.
Correct.
That goes in ethics. But if it's about cash for questions, it should have gone to the privileges committee. So he says, because that is a serious breach of privilege and contempt of the House. Then the other thing being that, okay, if you're going to say that if it's cash for questions, show us where the cash is. I mean, where's the evidence?
Yeah.
You can't kind of throw all these things out. Oh, there was a Louis Vuitton bag. Oh, there was a, an Hermes scarf. And, you can't just throw these kind of things around. Now, give concrete evidence, and like PD Achari again, PDT says again that, sorry, I'm just going to find that. But basically that it is not, it's just like throwing mud and hoping it sticks. So you're constantly like, there's a huge kind of, what should I say, propaganda outside in the social media, on television. Nobody's, again, they'll be like her with emeralds on the side, all this kind of ridiculous kind of imagery. And then where's the evidence? If you're saying it's cash for questions, show the evidence. I think that's what Nishikant Dubey has to show. And there's none of that. They're only allegations and insinuations.
In fact, I'm, Brinda took Nishikant's name. So, Rashid, this whole, there seems to be a bit of personal. She's been having a very public rivalry with the BJP MP, Nishikant Dubey, and he's kind of been spearheading some of the charges against her and bringing them out. Now, of course, the matter is in the ethics committee. But how much of this is political? How much of this is personal, Rashid? And do you believe Mahua saying that she's been targeted because of whatever reasons, whether she raised questions against Adani or whether there is a personal rivalry that has spilled into her professional life for whatever reasons?
I think, Priya, to my mind, it's all of it. Whatever you're saying is true and applicable in case of Mahua Moitra case. First of all, it's also about, as Brinda was saying, it's also about, patriarchy, her personal life, her robust, social life is being discussed, and there is an attempt to show that not only she's unconventional politician, she had multiple friends, partners, and Priya, me, you, we all have covered, and Abhijit, we know how our political system functions, and many of them have such active social lives, but the male politicians are never subjected to this kind of scrutiny. There is all kind of things have been said about her visits to Dubai, about, logging in this era of technology, etc. I think where you're logging from, how you're going to get your OTP, etc., is very, naive, if not irrational. I mean, all these things happen. We know, Priya, that majority of our parliamentarians come from very diverse, background, and many of them lean on their, assistants and relatives and all kind of things to log in, to get into, this kind of technological thing that Abhijit is talking about. Now, a real problem is, and if you have those rules about gifts and all, they are all outdated. Look at any Rajya Sabha election, Priya. The kind of things that, the events that take place, the kind of transactions that take place, the kind of, resources that are mobilized. But what do rules say? Rules say that, if an MP accepts a gift of, over 5,000 rupees, you have to inform, which is fine. I have no problem with that. It's just like, poll billing, poll expenses, ceiling. No one, follows. So everyone, there should be some bit of logic. I think Mahua Moitra is being targeted. And more importantly, ethics panel, her political opponents seem to have made up a mind before even this trial or this kind of committee meeting concludes that she's guilty. And that I find it little, it's against a process of natural justice, unfair, etc. One last point, Priya. When in 2005, when the cash for query, I think it was Cobra Post that did the sting operation, 11 parliamentarians, 6 from BJP were expelled. And at that point of time, Mr. L.K. Advani on the floor of the House had said that, this is a kangaroo court trial, this expulsion by a parliamentary committee. And today the BJP is giving so much, weightage to this ethics committee and their findings, etc. I think it's very disturbing because the parliamentary panels, as all of us know, is, supposed to work in a certain, in an ethical framework. And if the chairman or whoever, if they made up their mind, then I think it's a bit unfortunate.
So, a couple of questions for you, Abhijit. First of all, I'm interested to know how this is going to take a criminal complaint against her. Secondly, the OTP one, I think, as Abhijit explained, was also, the fact that the questions were asked not because she shared a OTP, but there's this whole, with a businessman in Dubai, first of all, and also someone who's obviously a business rival of the kind of questions that were being asked. I think that connect hasn't been made, Abhijit, that she asked these questions for cash or for some kind of compensation.
Correct. Now, remember, we need to remember that this is a this is a committee. This is not the these are not courts and the law. Internal organization rules apply here. The law can supersede all of them, but evidentiary rules that apply outside don't apply here. Now, remember, there are two different versions. She claims that she is the one that framed the question, and sitting from Krishnanagar, she used to call up Dubai and say, ye likho, wo likho, and all of that. Even though till March of this year, the password still had to come on the computer, so she still had to boot the computer and get the password till it was changed to phone-based OTPs. Right? Now, how that makes sense where you're dictating your question to somebody over the phone who has to type it and you don't even know if it's been typed right, when you can just type it on your phone and send it off to somebody, makes no sense. So this is point number one. Point number two, we come to the targeting bit. You see, the law can go after absolutely anyone. Is she being targeted? Yes. But you see, 100 people have gone and made fun of the Konark temple before me, but I was targeted for the Konark temple. Okay. It is accepted in law that a framework of law is, if you commit a murder or a theft, you can't say, oh, you're targeting me by prosecuting me. Why didn't you catch that murderer? Why didn't you catch that thief? Right. So this is completely legal. You can be targeted, and it is not just a principle of law in India. It is a globally applied principle of law that you can't, if you are being prosecuted, you can't ask why somebody else is being prosecuted. So is she being targeted? Emphatically, yes. Is it legal? Also emphatically, yes. Now, the problem comes about because, and this is getting to where it gets into a legal issue. First, these are intra-organizational rules within this thing. Now, I want to show you the NIC rules out here, which are quite clear. I want you to read, this is given to every parliamentarian, if you can see the first point there.
Users, I think you'll have to read
Only
it.
requested.
Yeah, users are
Right.
requested to keep the password. Yeah.
Right. Now, the problem is, with this, she's absolutely right when she says it is given to, say, the LAMPS fellows. You know, those are the interns that are sent to work under them for 2 years, I think, PRS LAMPS scholarship, who are sent to work under them, etc., etc. The problem is, you know, it's fine till it's not fine. It is the sharing of the password with the commission of a crime, which is gifts for question, which violates the Representation of People Act. She is a representative of the people. Darshan Hiranandani is not a representative of the people. This is the problem out here. So now Darshan says, I used to frame the questions and put it in. She says that she sat in Krishnanagar and framed the questions and put it in. Right? Now, all Darshan has to prove is, I mean, you can't prove that I didn't get questions from her. She has to prove that she sent the questions or she dictated the questions somehow, which then again goes back to her phone calls, some of which may have been late at night. Because, you know, I go to sleep at 2, 3 in the morning. So, you know, I do lots of my work very, very late at night. People's things are open. This then leads us to section 66D. Because if she wasn't the one dictating it and using secretarial services, if he can prove that he was the one coming up with the questions, it becomes impersonation under section 66D of the IT Act, which is punishable by up to 3 years in jail. But this is not Mahua. This is Darshan who goes to jail for 3 years. The problem is under section 107 of the IPC, aiding and abetting a crime is punishable by time equal to that crime. You understand? So it opens up a direct criminal route, number one. And number two, they are basically trying to get her to perjure herself. So in any setting where there is an oath, even if this goes to court, she will not be able to answer the questions, because the moment she answers the questions, either she perjures herself or she opens herself up to prosecution under 107 IPC, because the problem will always be that Darshan has already made his deal with the government. You know, like the liquor scam where certain people have turned approver, it is an accepted thing ki approver, if no matter what the gravity of the crime, you're going to get away with it.
Right.
So I don't see how she's going to, as we say in Hindi, Chakravyuh laga hai. अभिमन्यु अंदर जा सकता है पर बाहर नहीं निकल सकता है.
Wow, we're really on with the imagery today, from Chakravyuh to the Vastraharan or whatever she said. I'm going to take a quick break and come back and continue this conversation, so stay with us. Hello and welcome back to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Today we're taking a look at the continuing saga of Mahua Moitra. Rashid, you wanted to come in? I think when Abhijit was speaking, then I'll go to Vrinda.
No, please carry on. I mean, I'm just saying, you see, it actually problem with us is that we cannot be endorsed. Abhijit is right on several points, but the real problem here, Priya, is that here is a case that a person is, made to look guilty even before a verdict is pronounced, and all kind of loopholes, like, when Abhijit was showing that email and, that kind of terms, that precautions, all of us, in our day-to-day life, we sign a lot of papers, related to shares, bank accounts and all. It has a list of, things. No one reads clause by clause. If you read it, I mean, you'll spend half a day in that, and we just sign assuming that, it is a, correct position. So I think it is a bit, unfair that a system is trying to malign or fix somebody. As I said, you see, she may be guilty, but let that verdict come out. Let there be a, a kind of panel pronouncement. The BJP seems to have made up its mind that, she is guilty. And Priya, who are these complainants? These complainants are all have, some kind of proximity, some kind of personal equation with her. So we cannot be just oblivious of that, law is law and, she's guilty. I mean, here we are talking, we have seen, Priya, you, me, Vrinda, we have done a lot of this thing about, we feel gossip is a very serious business when it comes to writing. So those kind of, things are not, checks are not being taken in account. We are going with the tide. That means every citizen, that person who is a member of parliament or otherwise, can be fixed and framed, which is very, very disturbing and problematic.
But see, as Abhijit said also, yes, there seems to be a target here of, for whatever reasons, personal angst, rivalry, whatever. But the fact is, she did lay herself open to these attacks. They can only go after her if she has violated some rule. Do you think she's violated any rule? Has that trail been proved so far? Because Darshan Hiranandani so far has not really said that he, because he would be committing himself opening liable to prosecution if he says that I gave her, I bribed her, I gave her money so she could ask questions. That allegation has come from a third party, the list of gifts that she supposedly received, the cash that she supposedly received. Vrinda.
I think, what I've been hearing so far from Abhijit, I mean, this whole kind of maze of dragging her into a criminal case seems as if it's like, as if they're ensnaring her into that. Because if it was just about ethics or privilege, you just go to the committee and you kind of, sort it out there. But here it seems that, trap her here, trip her here in this criminal case, in that criminal case, and then, drag her, which is exactly what happened to the cash for votes, apart from them being suspended or expelled, I can't remember. But the thing is that criminal case is still going on because it went to the court because it's a criminal act. But like I was saying, that again, what I was quoting PTT Achari, when somebody asked, like, is there any rule that specifically bars members from giving their parliament login and password to a third person? He says no. He says there is no such rule yet because the practice of online submission of questions is very recent. As we know, it's from 2017 or 19. And he says that the rule should have been amended when such submissions were allowed to allow this kind of limitations so that people don't kind of breach it. And he says that, had there been a rule, some safeguards against violations would have been specified as well. But at the moment, there is no rule, okay, that you can't share your password. Number two is that he says, could the committee refer the matter to an investigative agency like the CBI, etc.? He says, no, this ethics committee does not have that kind of mandate. Okay, so in the end, it seems as if they're trying to trap her into some kind of a criminal, some kind of criminal act, and then kind of drag her into court, when actually all they have to do is find out first, give the proof that there was a cash quid pro quo, as they say, and cash for questions. That nothing has appeared so far. So except in the end, they're constantly, what you see on social media is this, this Jagran kind of culture of like, this woman who's like this, this loose woman and whatever nonsense. That is like, has been out, this kind of gutter thing that is being out there. It's really horrendous for a woman MP, because, a woman MP has to face, and we've never seen something like this ever before. I don't think so in Parliament, where women have been dragged.
Shashi Tharoor had to face a lot of
Not a woman.
Not a woman. But Abhijit, just a quick thing, is her biggest culpability or crime that she did not type the questions herself? Supposing Darshan had had given the questions to her, she would have just typed them herself. There would have been no trail, there would have been no crime. Is that the, I mean, I'm a little, it seems very technical, the crime.
See, it is very technical, but to bring in a different quote from somebody else, specifically Cardinal Richelieu of France, he said, never write a letter and never destroy one. The problem is she's left a whole trail. And here's the thing, this has been done by her own hand. She felt a sense of impunity, because this all starts with the custody battle of a dog called Henry.
Right.
Oh, I thought that came later.
And
sorry.
No, before.
No. It all comes about because of the custody. And for dog lovers like me, I can tell you honestly, if somebody takes away my dogs, Jayan and Tehedra behave very honorably compared to what I will do. I go berserk if anybody tries anything funny with my dogs. So I can totally understand where both of them are coming from, actually. Kyunki mera kutta mere bacche ki tarah hai, full stop.
Co-parenting.
Co-parenting. Thankfully, I'm a single parent. I'm very happy with that. And I think this is an object lesson that you better be a single parent. Otherwise,
moral of the story is that, I think.
Moral of the story. But, I think it's not so much entrapment as every time she opens her mouth, she digs herself deeper and deeper and deeper in. Now, you see the problem, again, what has happened out here in the ethics committee is she is saying that she was outraged, or ye cheer haran hua, to use Danish Ali's words. Okay, filthy questions were asked. They will now be sat down and sworn to oath as to what happened in this committee. Unfortunately, in that, whatever happens, there might be a case against Sonkar, but there's definitely a case to be made, an SC/ST Act case to be made against Mahua Moitra. Remember, she is a Brahmin. And I'm not going to repeat what was said to Sonkar by her, but it's certainly enough to trigger the SC/ST Act out here.
Was it a casteist slur?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a casteist slur, but it was, I guess you could, So, right, so therein lies the problem, because I mean, our courts are very variable. One day bail is the exception, bail should be the norm and not the exception. But then when Manish Sisodia comes, it's like, no, you stay in jail. When Umar Khalid, even without a conviction, has been in jail for what, 3 years now? I'm all for jailing. If they accuse him of what he's accused, if they can prove it, he should be in jail. But you can't keep a man in jail without proving everything for 3 years, yeah. ठीक है, questioning के लिए 10-15 दिन रखो, but उसके बाद it doesn't make any sense. But that is the way justice runs in this country, you see. So we never know where this is going to go. It becomes very...
Yeah, sorry, I'll give you the last one. We're totally out of time. But
that was it.
That is really the scary part. You don't know where this is going, and are they building a mountain out of a molehill? Is the case, not as big as it has been made out to be? What exactly is the charge against Mahua? Is that getting lost in the rest of it? And is she just making things worse for herself with the way she is playing her, in terms of optics, if she's losing out or if she's gaining? That is something we're going to keep debating, but we're totally out of time. So thank you all for this conversation and for joining us on the show. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.